All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good morning or good afternoon, and welcome to this August 6th IntelliGO Kickstart webcast. My name is Sarah Chuchus. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives at Spiders, and today I have with me Adam Manser. He's one of our key IntelliGO experts who will share with you a little bit about IntelliGO. And for those of you who are not familiar with IntelliGO, it is our mobile enablement tool, which really brings together features and functions from mobile device management, network access control, and some application management features in a single console for clients. And our goal today with these webcasts is really to cover three things. One is to do a walkthrough of some of the key features and functions in IntelliGO to really show the audience what does it look like to go through IntelliGO from a user or mobile user's perspective and from an administrator's perspective. So you get a real sense of what the experience is like from both sides. The second thing we want to do is make sure we give you an opportunity to ask the questions that you have about our product and to answer some common questions that we receive about IntelliGO. And finally, we want to share with you some different ways that you can get in touch with us so that you can get started with IntelliGO and better understanding what the product is or using it as part of your mobile initiative. If you have a question at any time during this webcast, feel free to enter the question in the chat box on the top right of your screen. What we'll do is we'll hold all questions to the end of the webcast and ensure that we save some time to answer those questions. If we don't get to your questions, though, we'll make sure to get back to you with an answer, because I know this is definitely the forum in which people want to ask questions about the product. Now, before we dive into IntelliGO, what I'd like to do is spend some time to talk about mobile. Now, mobile is still a hot topic. I mean, it's one of the top 4 Gartner Nexus of Forces topics today, but it's not new. It's been around and a topic that has been top of mind for the last 3-4 years. So most organizations that we've come in contact with have either some form of mobile in their environment, be it a small BYOD initiative in one office or one region, or a full-blown mobile initiative across the organization. And if you don't have mobile today in your organization, it's most likely something that's in the pipeline for you. And I think most people will agree that there's really a lot to consider in this broader mobile initiative that most organizations go through. And that's really because mobile touches a number of different stakeholders, a number of people. And so if you want to successfully go mobile, you really have to take into consideration the voice of each one of these different stakeholders. So what we've done is we've identified at least 6 stakeholders that you're likely to encounter as you're starting through your planning and your design process and thinking about what the requirements are before you choose an enabling technology to support your mobile program. And that'll obviously be mobile users, the IT director who's got accountability for these types of programs typically, executives who are putting down the ask and setting budgets and certainly the timelines for when they want to be able to use their latest gadgets. You've got your CISO, compliance, or security managers that has responsibility for the risks being introduced and determining whether these new initiatives violate any of the compliance obligations that you have, et cetera. Of course, the network manager, who probably fears mobile and the impact to their network and his particular role in day-to-day and his team as they support this mobile initiative. And finally, an IT help desk. I mean, with mobile, of course, you've got your day-to-day users, your guests, your contractors, and as there are issues that need to be supported or as you need to onboard new users, there is certainly a role for the IT help desk there. So what I'd like to do is just take a couple of minutes to talk about each one of these roles. What are their requirements at a high level? What are they really asking for? So mobile users really demand secure anytime access from any device to your applications, your data, and your network. And they want to make sure that they can easily get that access to the applications, and it's not an onerous process to get access to the data and the applications they need so that they can do their work more effectively. They also want a consistent user experience. So as you're designing those mobile applications, they don't want to have a completely new user experience for the same application that they would use when they're in your environment sitting at their desk. They want it to feel the same as what they're using when they're out there in the field. And they want to log in the same way. They want to have the same ability to navigate and use that application. And most of us are fairly security conscious these days. We worry about our identities and the transactions that we're doing in our communication. So we want to ensure, or the mobile user wants to ensure that you're looking out for me and that you've got my best interest at heart when it comes to security. But at the same time, if we're talking about a BYOD scenario, they certainly want to have their privacy maintained. So, I'll let you hook into my phone to do what you need to do to get me the access that I need and provide me that level of security, but don't go near my pictures or my applications at all. Let's look at the IT director for a second. And Adam, feel free to chime in at any time here. IT directors want a solution that is effective, that's not complicated, and is going to meet their stakeholder needs. They want to make sure that the business, the security group, the technical requirements can all be met. Ideally, if they can be met in one solution as opposed to disparate technologies like a separate NAC and a separate mobile device management solution and a separate application management tool, that makes life a lot easier and certainly something that's valued by IT. They also want a solution that's easy to integrate, not complicated deployments, not a lot of customization required to get up and running. And they want a solution that's easy for their existing team to use and to manage. They don't want to have to go out and procure new skills or train their resources on something that's really complicated to achieve the result. They want strong security and controls in place to mitigate the risks to their IT assets, so they certainly don't want to introduce the headache and the problems that could be associated with introducing a technology that presents vulnerabilities to the environment. And they need to find a solution that fits within a tight IT budget. Finally, the IT director is typically responsible for reporting the outcome or the current status of your mobile deployment, answering questions that might come down from senior management, and providing the insight to really demonstrate the value that you're seeing and the benefits of your mobile deployment. So they want a solution that will help them get the information that they need to answer those questions.
I think one of the key things, too, with an IT director is that as they look at the different projects their team has to execute on, taking a siloed approach to a mobile strategy or a network access control strategy or a networking strategy from wireless can create a lot of different projects, and it requires a lot of different skill sets. And when they look to make the most out of these projects and make sure that the tools they purchase have longevity for each one of these projects, taking a siloed approach doesn't make sense anymore. An IT director may have 3 or 4 of these initiatives to complete in a year. They may be looking at them simultaneously. But coming up with different solutions or proprietary solutions doesn't really allow you a platform to allow you to execute on enabling new mobile devices or providing compliance reporting for who and what is on the network. It doesn't also help you integrate with the networking for quality of service or other types of reports around what kind of performance you're getting out of things, and making sure that your users and your staff don't have to spend a lot of time learning something new just to take advantage of something they already had. So, making sure that the IT director's role is protected means giving them a platform to be able to execute on multiple initiatives at the same time, but also having the capability to make sure that solution will last as they look at their budget and try to get the most out of that.
Great, thanks, Adam. I appreciate that. And how about your executives? I mean, executives typically want the latest gadgets. They want to have the same user experience, so similar to the mobile end user, and they want all this to be available sort of yesterday. So you've got to make sure to make your executives happy that you can get off the ground running fairly quickly and get the executive and his team the access that they need, provide them a flexibility, secure connectivity anywhere, anytime, and make sure that they're able to get that access in the same user experience with relative ease. And those executives typically tend to be the ones that are obviously imposing budgets on the IT department that sometimes don't match what they're looking to have achieved. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, the network manager wants technology that is easy to integrate and does not compromise the network. So he wants to make sure that he can implement a solution that does not negatively impact the performance, availability, or security of his network. He wants a solution that ensures that there's strong access control in place, strong security for data, mobile applications, but doesn't want the headache that comes along sometimes with deploying these complex types of security. So He really wants a technology that's easy for his team to use and to manage, to maintain the visibility and control that they need to manage a mobile deployment and the population of mobile devices, be it guests, contractors, or their permanent staff. And if a problem occurs, he wants to make sure he's got a solution that his team can quickly use to diagnose and resolve the issues. Now, the help desk. I think the help desk is, loves the idea of going mobile, but doesn't want to be burdened with more phone calls, an onslaught of technical issues that might come through for mobile users. It really depends on what you're doing with your mobile program. Expense management might be part of your mobile initiative and things like that. I think you really need to spend time planning out what it is that your help desk is going to be responsible for and what the help desk will not be responsible for. But as it relates to choosing a tool, to the extent that a mobile enablement tool functions flawlessly and can provide things like self-registration for mobile users, so you don't have to manage the provisioning process through the help desk or troubleshoot that initial onboarding process with the help desk. That's really ideal. So you keep that in mind as you're thinking about different types of solutions that you might consider to enable your mobile program. CISOs or security managers, whoever's in charge of the security, is responsible for ensuring that you don't introduce unwanted risk and you don't violate your existing compliance mandates, or if you have new ones now because of the introduction of this, that you are in line with them. So they want to make sure that security requirements are met as it relates to access control, device, application, user security. They want to make sure that the solution, ideally will provide the reporting that they need to include for compliance mandates such as PCI or HIPAA, et cetera, and they want a solution that delivers the best security but doesn't necessarily require highly specialized IT security resources to operate it, as they probably have to chime in and support that as well if that were the case. So that really gives you a good sense of some of the different stakeholders and some of their different requirements. So how do you address all the stakeholder wants and needs? I mean, it can be a bit of a daunting task for you there in the center. So we believe that the easiest thing to do is to really take those requirements that we talked about for each one of those stakeholders and group them into really 3 different categories. We're looking for a product and mobile enablement technology that is easy to use, easy to deploy, easy to manage day to day, easy to troubleshoot, easy to use for reporting and other needs. We're looking for a solution that's comprehensive and cost-effective, and I'll talk more about that, and a solution that is secure. I don't think we can really operate or integrate a technology these days that doesn't have, all of the check marks around security. So let's dive into easy. As IT environments become more complex, solutions that address all your requirements in the simplest way become, highly valuable. So we're looking for a product, as I said, that's easy for mobile users to gain secure access to the network and needed applications, that is easy to deploy and integrate. And you might start with a small pilot, so you want to make sure that that's scalable and can expand to the other geographies or other offices that you're supporting mobile in. A technology that's easy for your network management team to manage and support, and easily gives you that visibility that you need, can allow you to easily create, push, and revoke policies, create profiles, and install and uninstall applications, et cetera, that you need to do as part of managing the mobile deployment, and easily demonstrate compliance, deliver the user experience that we were talking about, that common, consistent experience, and meet all of your user requirements. Do you have anything to add, Adam?
Yeah, I think the simplicity of a solution that you implement, it really is part of the experience for your users, and that we shouldn't necessarily toss security out the window just because it's complex to integrate when we start enabling new devices. With the introduction of cloud and mobile devices, security's sort of taken a back burner to a lot of the new initiatives coming on board for people, while still maintaining the still stringent requirements of PCI DSS, HIPAA, or any of these other requirements. So making something simple isn't just about making it easy for your users or fast for your IT director to implement. It also means that you have to maintain the level of security you had previously with these new initiatives. Your policies haven't necessarily changed, so your device and your network has. And restoring the visibility, control, and the integrations into your network that you had previously in the Microsoft and segmented networks of old is exactly how delivering easy mobile enablement for the enterprise today.
Great. So you can just advance one. Delivering a comprehensive and cost-effective solution. So what do we mean by that? Comprehensive mobile operating system support. So you really have to choose a vendor that is going to support all of the different operating systems that are out there that you may be interested in supporting, but also has, a requirement to ensure that they're supporting all of the releases or versions, previous versions of it that you may have brought on to your network if you're supporting a BYOD program, and the flexibility to support those devices we don't even know are coming on to the market. And it's not just mobile operating systems. You may want to expand and may need to expand to other devices, your Mac OS, your laptops, other devices that connect to your wireless network as well. You're looking for one solution to address access control, mobile device management, and mobile application management functions. Ideally, if you can get one solution, all the better. From an integration standpoint, it would be ideal to have a product that you can integrate into your network, any network, doesn't matter what the type of network that you're running, the Cisco, Juniper, et cetera, but that will integrate with your network and security management tools like your firewalls, your SIM, and your syslog. You want a product that will integrate with public and enterprise app stores. High availability is pretty important. I'll let Adam talk about that in just a second. And from a cost standpoint, you certainly want a solution that enables you to scale while reducing your costs over time. And really the cost discussion becomes very company specific, whether you prefer to have a good and solid understanding of what your total cost will be as you expand across the organization, and you want to contain that cost to sort of a fixed cost for all of those different units, or pay as you go sort of per device in a SaaS type model. But from our perspective, it would be ideal to have a perpetual license cost. It's fixed, understand what it is up front, and it allows you to scale quite quickly. Adam, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, obviously comprehensive solutions might mean more cost-effective solutions. If we look at consolidation from any of the markets in security or mobile, consolidation is always a good thing because it provides a lot more unique advantages from being combined with other solutions. So if you typically think about access control, or you think about device management, these tools haven't necessarily adapted for the way that access control is required. You have cloud apps, you have an internal network segmentation, and allowing devices to just access something is just the legacy way of thinking about your network and access control. Once a device gets access, you really need to make sure that you're able to control the endpoint after it leaves. And so by delivering a comprehensive solution that not only integrates with things like remote access tools, with things like SIMs, with things like next-generation firewalls, you're not only able to control and enforce who network. You can also make sure that when it's not on the network, you still have a certain level of security, a certain level of control with those assets. Because just because they're not connected to your network or your applications in-house anymore, doesn't mean that you want the security that you demanded of your internal network to go away when your data is at risk. So, having those kinds of things in one solution provides a comprehensive solution, as in it touches the most amount of, aspects of mobile control, and it's more cost-effective because you're leveraging the existing investment you've made, and you're making sure you're consolidating multiple scenarios into one.
Great points. Go to the next slide. So mobile is really the new attack vector, and security is not an option, as we talked about. When you think about security, we've got to address security for the users, devices, the communication, applications and data, and your network. So I'm not going to drain this slide all too much, and I know Adam will be anxious to talk about this and has addressed security just a couple of seconds ago. But you have to make sure that there are functions or features within the mobile enablement tool that will secure the user's identity and provide that level of control or security for the user. On the device side, that you've got, software restrictions and policy settings, the ability to remotely locate, lock, wipe, screen capture or webcam capture what is happening on that particular device. That there are the mechanisms in place to initiate things like auto VPN connections to ensure secure communication between all of the different devices in your back-end systems, and that you have the ability to control the data and the applications on the device by decommissioning devices, revoking access, wiping data, removing and segmenting the data and the applications on a shared or BYOD personally owned device. And from a network standpoint, you've got to make sure that you've got a solution that has, again, the mechanisms. For us in IntelliGO, it's a built-in private certificate authority that securely authenticates authorized devices to the network using digital certificates across any network. So it's not just your wireless network, but if you've got devices connecting through the wired or remote access networks, it will provide you that level of assurance and security there as well.
And I think one of the important things here about being a new attack vector is definitely that a lot of these platforms are new to organizations. When we come in to discuss, a mobile enablement strategy with a new customer, the idea that their, legacy platforms provided very well-known hardening practices, very well-known, connections that they could manage, whether that was for authenticating to the Wi-Fi or two-factor authentication VPN. These legacy controls really are a different animal when you think about different mobile operating systems. There's a certain degree, varying degree of support. They're all constructed very differently. So typical hardening practices, things like antivirus and the normal tools that you'd enable on these platforms are not necessarily the same tactics you'd perform on mobile devices today. The thing is that without the capability to manage or understand all the applicable security features of each platform, you're going to end up with a very hard design in terms of what you want to be able to support. If it's PIN passcode device encryption, whether it's a containerization or any of these other approaches, looking at the way the native operating system secures itself is really how you want to be able to manage these devices. So you can make sure that going forward, that strategy and that tool isn't abandoned and isn't relevant as they upgrade the operating system. So when we look at the marriage between users, devices, and the communication to those networks, there's a lot of different aspects to security that aren't necessarily an option anymore. These are personal devices. This is corporate data. The marriage between those two worlds presents a very big risk to most companies. And so security is top of mind every time we think about integrating mobile devices into the network.
All right, so this is really where IntelliGO comes in. As we talked about, it's a mobile enablement platform that's designed to make going mobile easier, more secure, while providing a comprehensive set of features and functions that really addresses the stakeholder requirements that we talked about. So it's giving you that ease of use and deployment, the security, the comprehensive and cost-effective solution in one solution. Today, IntelliGO is offered as a purpose-built appliance that can support anywhere from a handful of devices to thousands of mobile devices on a single appliance. From a mobile user's perspective, as they come into your environment and they're looking to connect to your Wi-Fi network, if you have IntelliGO integrated into your environment, what will happen is they will be initiated through, and Adam will demonstrate this later, the IntelliGO self-registration portal or self-provisioning portal, and that's just the image that you see here in the center of the page. And what that will do is it walks the user through the process of downloading the IntelliGO mobile application, which is the icon you see here on your left hand side of the screen, and we'll push down profiles for that particular user once they've entered their Windows credentials or whatever credentials it might be that they're using. The image on the right, the IntelliGO Administrative Portal, is a web-based portal that's quite user-friendly for the administrators managing this process. And this is a tool that would be used to do everything from the setup of IntelliGO through to the day-to-day management and the control of the mobile devices in the network. So what we'll do is, as part of the demonstration, Adam will walk through, again, what things look like and a few simple actions in that portal. But in addition to that, we've also got on our website a longer sort of walkthrough of the portal for those who are interested in learning a little bit more about that. So this just gives you a sense of what are all the components of IntelliGO, what does it look like today, and there are certainly plans to offer it as a cloud-based service in the future. But for now, we've got this purpose-built appliance. Great. Now, one of the ways that we talk about IntelliGO is through control, visibility, and integration. You've heard me mention that a couple of times today. So in order to deliver this sort of seamless integration and compatibility to support all of the different mobile operating systems that are out there that we want to support, we present IntelliGO in this way. So it is a technology or solution that is going to easily integrate into a heterogeneous sort of networking environments. It's network agnostic, if you will. It supports that list of devices and provides support all the way back to I'm sure any device that's brought onto the network, you can test this on it, will be able to support for some of these different platforms. And again, from the network access control perspective, it allows you to maintain visibility on devices that are coming onto your network via the Wi-Fi, VPN, or wired network. So these are all of the great ways that we easily integrate and provide that compatibility in your environment across your different networks for all the different operating systems that you are looking to support. Okay, so we're finally at the point in the presentation where we can dive into IntelliGO and have a look at how it actually works in motion. So the first thing we'll do is we'll look at the process of easily onboarding a mobile user to the network. We'll look at application management, how do you install and uninstall applications on a mobile device from a user perspective, and again, what it looks like in the administrator console or the portal, and show you some sort of basic actions to protect against a lost or stolen phone that your users might report.
Thanks, Sarah. So I prepared a short video of these 3 actions that I'm just going to jump into right now. Just give me one sec here. Okay, so we'll begin the video essentially with my iOS device, and we'll show you how quickly that iOS device can be provisioned. So the first thing we want to do is arrive to the network and just connect in to the normal SSID. This could be your company hotspot, the name of your company, or something just implicating that there's connectivity for wireless devices within the enterprise here. And you can protect this in the classical ways of password protected, or you could leave it wide open. But essentially, this is going to provide a familiar experience for the user by allowing them to connect their device without any prior instructions or with limited prior instructions, and then essentially allow them to be captive portaled so they get presented a nice web page after they're connected to the network. So here you see the user just connected to the network for the first time. And then essentially the second part is they just open up a browser just like they would at a hotel. And up comes the IntelliGO registration screen. So it says that the registration is required and that they should enter in their email username and password. So here we integrated with Active Directory here, so we can use common credentials, stuff that they're used to entering either on Windows or maybe their Exchange email account. If you're an LDAP shop or a student like a K-12 environment, again, using LDAP is one of the great ways you can uniformly create accounts for everybody. So having them sign in there on their mobile device is the first step, and then following the prompts here, essentially they select their platform, detected we were using iOS, and then essentially we have a one-touch onboarding here. So essentially all the user has to do to get their unique certificates and wireless networking settings and email settings and everything else is done automatically here. So we just enter the local user's PIN and passcode, and that's it. Essentially the setup is done. We scroll down to see what we should be doing with this information, and here we start to see some corporate apps already starting to come down from the device being managed. And the user can basically switch back to the networking settings, and from that point forward, use their device to connect to the secure network. So, typically what would have taken, 20 minutes or something to set up by hand, now we have the user capable of setting themselves up in less than 60 seconds on their mobile device, right? And this is only done one time. This is just for the users to get established on the network, and it also provides the capability for you now to separate the secure network, the secure devices, so devices that pass your security requirements, as well as now take management of the device. Okay, so in that short demo, all we did was just provision a new user, and now you can see he's on the network and ready to start using some resources and being productive. Okay, now that we have that user provisioned, we really want to see what IntelliGO can do to add to the information about the device, the user, what kinds of things we can do from a security perspective. So primarily, one of the first things we want to do is install and uninstall applications. So what I'm going to do here is the user there is on the right, and I'm going to log into our IntelliGO administration console. This is a web-based administration console, and this allows us to see all the users, devices, and applications coming onto our network very quickly and easily. So the first thing you'll see on the dashboard screen is all the users that have been created. So when the user went to that provisioning portal, they created a certificate. That's a secure way of connecting to the network, the most secure way of connecting to the network. And here we have a list at the bottom of all the credentials on the network. But let's switch over to the devices here very quickly. Let's get an understanding of what's connected to our network, who set up what kinds of devices on our network. And in order to do that, we'll essentially go down here on the table to the last updated device, which happens to be my iPhone that we just set up a moment earlier. And let's get a little bit of details about that device. We're going to want to see some basic inventory information. Here you see the geolocation, some history information about the device, where it was at particular points in time. You see full inventory of the device, and you can turn any of these settings on and off by clicking on monitoring settings. We can check everything from geography, network information, session information, and in the hardware and software tab, you can see all the information about the device, including the carrier, MAC addresses, other information that will allow you to fingerprint that device so that you know uniquely that that's the device. So now we want making use of this device. So we jump over to our Applications tab. This is our Enterprise App Store. So this includes both applications from Google Play Store and Apple iTunes, but it also has the ability to import our locally created enterprise apps. So one of the first things we're going to want to do is make sure that the person connects to either Exchange or our SharePoint or what have you. And so we may want to push down Office 365. So here I am going to the Apple iTunes App Store. I could have selected App Store for iTunes or for an enterprise app that I made myself. And here we just select, a simple key phrase, Microsoft Office or Microsoft Link in this case, and that'll allow us to browse the App Store and import the app locally to our Enterprise App Store. You also have the ability to do volume purchase programs. So if the app wasn't free, in this case it was, you could work with a corporate account there or a volume purchasing code to make sure you're purchasing that on behalf of your users. So here, if we wanted the Microsoft Office for mobile to be pushed to the device, essentially we could click on Manage, find the iOS devices we're interested in pushing that information to, and then the second we click Install Selected, over there on the right you'll see an app installation message. That means the mobile user is getting alerted that the enterprise wants to push an application directly to their device, and you can see the app loading on the mobile device. That means that we now have management of the mobile application, which is pretty key to when we think about MDM and when we think about mobile device security. Once we push data to the device with email, we want to make sure only applications that the corporation manages can access and consume that data. And that's important because if we wanted to be able to do a selective wipe without removing the user's documents or any of their personal emails, we were able to do that by simply removing the application, right? So what we're going to do here is, now that we've installed Microsoft Office, we're going to show you how quickly we can remove that application. So here we click on Manage and find that iPhone again. And then by highlighting Uninstall Selected, we keep an eye on that Office mobile icon, and quite instantaneously, the second we uninstall it, the application is removed. And so too is the data with it. Okay, so in that example, we basically pushed through, mobile application push, mobile application uninstall. But let's say the user had misplaced their device, or we were worried that the user could access the network now with a lost or stolen device. What we can do here is go down to the user's credential that was created and essentially revoke it. Revoking means that the mobile device here is no longer allowed to connect to the network or resources that are protected by that certificate. So you can see the marriage between the access control and the endpoint management being quite sophisticated. So being able to release user or disallow them from the network means they're pushed down to that provisioning network again, so the device no longer has access to the secure network, any secure resources, and you see that the provisioning page again comes up again. If the user decides to provision again, they're going to provision with their revoked certificate. So there's not going to be a capability for them to connect by hand. They can't use their certificate to connect anymore. That's something that's centrally managed. So very, very similar to the way you had usernames and passwords you could simply revoke. Here we have a credential that can apply to all devices. So if they don't support username and password authentication, being a certificate-based authentication is going to be much more important. That way you don't have to disable 30 or 40 accounts. You can just have one credential that's revoked for the user. Okay, so that walks us through very quickly some of the scenarios. Again, we do have a number of different demos online, which you can check out that will cover the product in much greater detail.
Adam, I think you can advance a couple of slides forward. Okay, a common question that we get is, where does IntelliGO sit in the network? So Adam, maybe you can walk us through.
Yeah, IntelliGO actually sits in a very simple place in the network, and we are where the directories are. We are where Active Directory would be. We are an authentication system, and so we're in a protected segment of the data center that can receive authentication requests from your network switches, VPNs, or access points. This makes sure that we're in a protected segment, so not a lot of people can access the device to send authentication requests. It's protected with secrets between IntelliGO and the rest of the network, and we have a special relationship with tools such as firewalls or VPN where we can forward the information into those devices so that they can start making intelligent decisions about who and what can access which applications, or do certain content inspection to make sure that only certain users access URLs. So whether the user's remote or whether they're inside, IntelliGO essentially sits in the same place and is quite easy because of that one location. We also provide high availability so that we have an all the time, always on high performance network that can receive these authentications. So you don't have to worry that you have 65,000 users or 100,000 users. If you have a very high volume of users, IntelliGO was purpose built for that. So scaling laterally, we were able to achieve almost any number of the users in a single location.
Now we had Palo Alto in that example, but that it's not necessarily suggesting that IntelliGO.
So it could be Checkpoint, it could be Fortinet, it could be Palo Alto. Looking at integrating a next generation firewall or a next generation security platform means you need to take advantage of users decryption and a number of other tools that without a system like IntelliGO is near impossible, and that's because you need key distribution in order to do some of those things. You need the capability to provide on-demand VPN if you're going to provide a zero trust network. So a lot of these new models and all of these new capabilities that your tools are providing are really enabled by IntelliGO. It really provides you the capability to make sure you know who and what is on your network and help protect them from malicious code and other types of vulnerabilities. So we also have a wonderful use case here with the college who's actually integrated IntelliGO for all their students, and the challenge for them was that they needed a low-cost solution that could scale to cover the number of students that they had. They obviously did not want to limit themselves to a Windows-only environment. As a learning institution, they wanted their students to take advantage of the tools that they chose. So whether that was a MacBook, a BlackBerry, Chromebook, what have you, the diversification of endpoints was really a problem because traditional models that they found online or that they had been traditionally given through corporate training were to give them Microsoft-centric or platform-centric training on how to build and manage a uniform device environment. So with Spider's IntelliGO platform, essentially what we've done is provide mobile authentication and device management. This meant that the school didn't have to invest in a directory. They didn't have to buy Active Directory. They didn't have to look at a separate radius server. They could just use the wireless network that they had and essentially enable everything for the mobile devices, which are Macintosh and largely iOS-centric, right? So the result is that all staff and students now securely connect to the network. They can take action as they wish to revoke or uninvoke or expire users. So as the student population comes in or as fees get paid, they can enable access for all those users quite simply. They have a user-friendly portal now that allows registration from the students. So even though they have young kids to young adults, as part of the college, they make sure that the simplicity of the enrollment is quite quick, quite painless for a lot of their new users, and gives them the ability to enforce policy. So whether that's a URL-specific policy by age, or if it's an application quality of service policy, they're making sure that the introduction of these new mobile operating systems doesn't impact the network, doesn't impact the security, and doesn't impact the auditability of who and what is on the network. So it's a popular case study and a great one for education customers to reference when talking about the benefits of IntelliGO.
Great. Now let's just take a minute to talk about how you can get started with IntelliGO. Oh, it seems we've got just one slide before that to recap. I think it's always a good idea to do a takeaway and recap what we've covered. So we talked about as you're looking for the solutions or a solution to support your mobile initiative, you're looking for something that's easy. You want an enabling solution that makes it easy for you to support the different operating systems, your user requirements, and your IT's wishes as it relates to integrating and managing the device. You're looking for something that is comprehensive and cost-effective, and you want to ensure that you've got the security controls in place so that you are not introducing a lot of risk to the business as you deploy your mobile program, so that you mitigate against any risk that may be introduced to that new attack vector. All right, so lots of people ask us how can we get started with IntelliGO. It depends on where you are in the process as you're evaluating different technologies. If you're just starting out, there are certainly a number of resources on our website that you can pull down or read through. You can request a demo or start a free trial with us. I think one of the best ways to get things going is to start with some initial questions that you might have about the product, or let us know about your particular use case or deployment. What are your objectives and goals, and what are you trying to do, so we can help provide you the relevant information to get you up and running and help you make those decisions. So there's an online chat as well. If you don't want to contact a salesperson directly, we can interact with you online. Check us out on LinkedIn, because we regularly provide content about what's happening in the mobile space, what's happening with IntelliGO, latest releases, etc., and through Twitter as well. So those are just some of the ways that you can connect with us and get started on IntelliGO. Now, what I will do, as I said in the beginning, if you had any questions and entered them into the chat, we will take those. Otherwise, go ahead and enter them now. I'm going to start off with a couple of questions that we've got here for Adam. So let's see, Adam, one of the questions that we have is, why are you integrating NAC and MDM in a single platform?
That's a good question. NAC and MDM vendors still haven't maintained pace with the evolution in the network and the evolution of the endpoint. And essentially, your network today will change to incorporate a hybrid of personally owned, lots of different operating systems, and your network will only give access to certain resources internally. A lot of other access is controlled externally. So by consolidating MDM and NAC, essentially what we've done is make sure that the endpoint is the place to control data, the data that might be going to the cloud applications that you may be enrolling the users with, data that might be working itself through other applications on other networks that are not your own, and enforcing the access control and compliance when users are on the network and off the network at the same time. So being able to apply policy the way it needs to be applied today is why we don't believe in segmenting or providing only tie-ins between MDM and NAC, but creating something that is net new, an EMM, a NAC together in one platform.
Great. Next question. Do we need to re-architect or make network changes for implementation?
No, as part of our integration is that we accept authentications similar to the way a traditional, a directory would. So you're gonna have a very similar topology. You're gonna have a very similar infrastructure to what you have today. With the addition of IntelliGO, you're integrating in a uniform and standard way for remote access as well. So having VPNs or other types of concentrators like Citrix or other gateways authenticate to us is again a standard position in the network where you're not having to make any considerable change.
Okay, we're running out of time here. We've just got a couple more minutes left, so I'll take this next question and then we'll get to the rest of the questions after. Does IntelliGO support Chromebooks?
Yes, it does. Actually, Chromebook is one of our strategic initiatives at the company. It's definitely a platform in which we're looking to enrich the security. We're looking to enrich the auditability. We're looking to enrich multi-user environments and secure individual users, and bring integrations that the Chromebook may not have necessarily brought to the network or to the audit tools such as SIMS, and bring you that type of security, that type of auditability for those platforms. So that's definitely something that we support.
Good, thanks. I think we're going to get cut off with this this particular webcast because we are running out of time. So again, I just want to leave on the screen with you the different ways you can get in touch with us. There were a couple more questions that came through, and we'll make sure that we'll address those separately. But I want to thank everybody for taking the time to participate in this webcast. Our next webcast is on August 20th. So definitely come to IntelliGoMobile.com /Kickstart and look for that next session. If you can't make August 20th, they are scheduled for every other Wednesday from that date on. Thanks again.